Long Haul by C.A. Wynn. I used to drive a truck. It wasn't even that long ago. You probably didn't know that anyone was still running big rigs. If I hadn't come from a family of haulers, I might think the same thing. My great-grandfather was what they called a teamster. That was late last century, before the big switch, when most trucks still needed a driver. By the late 2060s, almost all vehicles were self-driving. Trucks were no exception. That didn't keep my dad from cruising the hammer lane. He never let go. It was in his blood. Some of my best memories were of riding in the cab with him. He tried one of those hover rigs, but never got the hang of it. For him, nothing beat 18 wheels. He passed that rig down to me. It's a relic, but it can still haul. When I finally got this gig in space, I had to leave the old girl behind. Now she's collecting dust in Topeka. How does someone go from driving a truck to sitting on top of a rocket? Well, driving was a job, a way to pay for my PhD. Unlike my dad, space had always been my dream. To be clear, it's not really a rocket in that 20th century romantic sci-fi sense. I don't have to strap in on the launch pad or anything. We use V-suits, and the helmets don't look like oversized basketballs. I spend most of my time in zero-G, and nearly all of my gravity comes from thrust. Of course, I didn't need a PhD to be a pilot. My dad didn't need one either. He wrote his dissertation while he was on the road. I wrote mine about the road. And like him, I'm still running cargo. I just do it in space. On Earth, it had been miles of lonely asphalt lined with yellow dashes. Fall asleep or drift too far, and you were into a tree or in an embankment. In space, there's nothing to keep you in your lane. What's worse, these lanes take up all three dimensions. You could veer off into nothingness and hardly know it. You're not likely to find a place to crash, so stray too far and you might not make it anywhere. The stars and galaxies never get closer, never pass. Even when you're under thrust, it hardly seems like you're moving at all. We have a crew of 4. When I'm by myself on duty, the AI keeps me company. We're in constant contact with Earth as well. The closer we get to Mars, the more we hear from them too. It gets to be a bit much, in fact. Makes me miss the road. It was much quieter there. "Pharaoh, this is Mars Central," a voice came over the comm. "This is Pharaoh, Hubert Finn, TSC 1073, I said. "Pharaoh, be advised that the quadrantid meteoroid stream is in your vicinity," Mars Central said. "Our flight plan includes it. We've adjusted our course accordingly," I said. "Roger that. Mars Central out." I logged their notice and got back to daydreaming. I didn't understand why they bothered telling us about the stream. They had our flight plan. We expected the stream to be there. These things are mapped and monitored. A one-way trip takes about 9 months. It usually included a few days avoiding asteroids and other debris. Red tape and bureaucracy, my least favorite parts of space travel. After the return leg and another 9 months of it, I might be eager to hit the road again. There was no telling how much longer that option would be available to me. Fewer cars and trucks filled fewer roads and highways back on Earth. I felt a tap on my shoulder. The only way to look around in this bucket was to unstrap. My shift was ending, so I didn't hesitate. There she floated, Elawera Carrera, my replacement. Just the thought of her made me dizzy. "Hey, El, you haven't missed much," I said. "Really? I was sure we'd run across little green men by now." She flashed that disarming smile. I bumped my head on the ceiling as I let her ease past. Rubbing my head, I smiled. We just got a reminder from Central about quadrantids. Nothing we didn't already know. "Well, I'll be sure not to change course," she said. I stared too long, something I tended to do when Elle was around. I always felt awkward around her. I'm not sure why. It's not like I'd never been close to a woman before. I turned to leave. Before I got too far, I felt Elle's hand tighten around my arm. I pushed off the wall and turned toward her. A cold electricity ran through me. "I'm glad you could take my shift. I really needed the rest," Elle said. Pulling me toward her, she kissed me. I dreamed of that moment. After months in a tin can with Elwera, dreams were bound to happen. She was like no one else I'd ever met. I suppose it was love, maybe with a bit of lust mixed in. Feeling her lips on mine, I closed my eyes. There I saw them, the yellow lines of the road coming at me, piercing the night. When I opened my eyes, I found her staring into my soul. "Thank you," I immediately regretted saying. I wasn't sure what else to do. She turned and slid into the seat, strapping herself down. I gave the back of her head a lingering smile and turned to leave. Below deck, I stopped at the canteen. Our other shipmates were there, playing chess as usual. "Same game?" I asked. Shusai looked my way and flashed a toothy grin. "Just started this one." Thulani didn't look up. He never did. Chess consumed him. I took a seat on one side of the table, strapping myself down. Thulani's fingers pressed the top of his rook. After several seconds, he released it, backing his hand away. I glanced at Shusai and nodded toward Thulani. "Has he beaten you yet?" Shusai smiled at him. "We have friendly games. No need for competition." Thulani frowned. "She means our games are not competitive." Shusai shook her head in agreement. I smiled. "Central warned us about the quadrantids." "Again?" asked Thulani. He moved the rook. "Had they before?" I asked. Shusai reached for her knight, bringing it to capture the rook. "It's in the flight plan," she said. Thulani bit his lower lip. "Didn't they already call us about it?" "No, that was me," Shusai responded. "We're cutting this one close, about 100,000 clicks, only an hour of wiggle room. I confirmed it with Earth. Probably just made the rounds." "So we tell Earth, Earth tells Mars, then Mars tells us?" Thulani reached for a pawn, then thought better of it. Shaking her head, Shusai leaned back into her seat, the harness loose around her. Bureaucratic efficiency at its finest. She looked my way and tilted her head. "Hey, Finn, didn't you just pull a double? How are you still awake?" I rubbed my eyes and nodded. When I lowered my hands, I smiled. Elle kissed me. "It's about time," Thulani said as he moved his pawn. I was surprised. "Do you think so?" Shusai laughed. "The two of you have been all googly-eyed for weeks." She moved her bishop to take the pawn. "No wonder you're not asleep. But if I'd pulled a double, I'd be out already," she said. She had a point. Not that I could go down that easily, but I should try. Double shifts were unheard of. I would only do it for Elle. I wasn't even sure why she wanted it. We had a consistent schedule. She asked. That's all I needed. I unbuckled and floated around the game. It didn't seem like either Shusai or Thulani noticed me leave. As I pulled up to my bunk, I listened to Thulani curse. I might have heard the board upended as well, but I wouldn't swear to it. The next thing I knew, I was seated at the command console again. I had no idea how I got there, but I wasn't concerned. It seemed natural to be in that seat. I felt pressure on my shoulder. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, catching a whiff of Elle's scent. Perhaps it was the weight of her hand, the way she placed it, or the gentleness. Whatever the reason, I felt sure I would turn to find her behind me. I unstrapped and pushed myself away from the seat. When I'd spun completely around, I found nothing and no one. There are 2 small windows on the flight deck. Through one of them, I saw a flash of light. The first thing that came to mind was the silver of a V-suit reflecting the distant sun. I pushed my face flush against the glass. There I saw 3 figures drifting away from the ship. I checked the system monitor. External cameras insisted there was nothing outside. Looking through the window, I stared at 3 people who couldn't be there. I activated the comm and called out, "Elle, what are you doing out there?" One of them raised a hand. Was it her? Again and again I called. Except for the raised hand, none of them moved or responded. I panicked. Inertia would keep the three of them floating away from the vessel. Their oxygen supply wasn't endless. I thought of going out to them, but that would leave the ship without a pilot. I rechecked the external cameras, only to find they weren't there. "El, I'm changing course," I shouted into the comm. "I'll come get you." "Finn, you can't change course. We're too close to the stream." That was Elle's voice. I pushed away from the controls and spun around. There she was, her long black hair flowing behind her. She was in a V-suit, her helmet removed. "Elle, what were you doing outside?" I asked. "You can't change course," she said. "Why would I change course?" I asked. "You have to leave us out there," she said. "I wouldn't," I said. She began to cry. I moved forward, grabbing her in my arms. My momentum pushed us to the wall. My hand moved quickly to protect her head. Her hair flowed through my fingers, soft on my skin. We kissed, my tongue meeting hers. Closing my eyes, I saw the deep void, the field of stars. From them flowed yellow lines, their steady pulse racing toward me. She backed away and whispered, "You have to let us go." When I opened my eyes, I was again in the pilot's seat. Before me was the system monitor. Red lights flashed everywhere. My hand was close to the navigation panel, my fingers extended. I had fired thrusters. Telemetry indicated we were heading directly for Mars. I activated the navigation screen and killed the thrusters. With the silence, I could hear my heart pounding. Why was it so loud? I checked the external cameras. There in the distance was our dusty red destination. As I stared at the approaching planet, the yellow lines of the road emerged from it. The dashes raced toward me, a steady pulse matching the quickened pace of my heart. That's when I realized the pounding wasn't coming from me. It was something else, distant. It reminded me of metal crashing against metal. I heard voices too, small and distant. They were shouting. I couldn't make out what they were saying. The sound of metal on metal grew louder. Why would anyone be hammering? Finding myself strapped in, I unbuckled and pushed away from the pilot's chair. Red lights illuminated the cramped space with a steady pulse. I found the hatch locked. Another crash came from the other side. I tried the controls, but found the hatch wouldn't open. I pressed repeatedly with no effect. "I can't let you in," I yelled through the comm. Sounds from the other side stopped. "Finn?" It was Shu's voice through the comm. The banging started again. "Stop! Let him respond!" That was Elle's voice. I grabbed the manual override. The hatch would not open. "Finn!" called Elle. "Yes, I'm trying to open it," I said. "Finn, you've changed our course." She sounded anxious. "Yes, I didn't want to leave you out there," I said. "But the stream," she said. The banging began again. Shu yelled, "Thulani, stop!" I backed away from the hatch, the pulsing lights in rhythm with my pounding heart. Elle's voice was faint. "Finn, we're headed for the stream. If you don't do something, like now." The stream, I reminded myself as I launched toward the pilot's seat. The LiDAR still pointed toward it. The flowing chunks of rock and ice were to our starboard, making their way around the sun. "What do I do?" I shouted. "Thrusters first," yelled Shu. "Hard to port, then engines." I strapped myself in and yelled, "Okay, you'd better hold on." The ship lurched to the left, pressing me into the corner of the seat. After a few seconds, I killed the thrusters and ignited the engines. The G-force jumped to 4 in a matter of seconds. LiDAR put the outer limits of the stream at less than a few thousand kilometers. That's where the red lights came from. The system estimated we were a minute away, maybe 2. Before the first minute passed, the ship lurched to port. Thrust kept me in my seat, but I was thrown to the side, the chair biting into my ribs. I pulled on my straps, but we were in a roll. I decided it might be better to kill the engines, but I couldn't be sure we'd cleared the stream. At that point, we might get hit by another bit of comet debris. I could only hold on and hope that it didn't happen. Thrown off our course, we were racing along an arc that kept widening. I didn't dare correct our orientation until I knew we were out of danger. Something else struck the ship, its rate of spin increasing. This second object sent us careening into a forward roll, the engines spewing thrust in an arc. I didn't wait any longer to kill them. We risked pushing ourselves toward the center of the stream. The system screen blinked red, detailing a long list of failures. Among them was main propulsion. I had no control over the engines. I took the risk of firing the maneuvering thrusters to slow our tumble. Only some of them sputtered, then died. The result was a more violent toppling toward the vicinity of nowhere. That's the last thing I remember. I must have blacked out. When I woke, we were still rolling wildly. The thrusters are shot. No one responds to the comm. I can't even get Mars Central. Every so many seconds, I see light from the sun shoot through one of the windows across the length of the flight deck. Its regular pulse reminds me of lines painted on a lonely highway. End of Long Haul by C.A.Wynn.